Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Market Talk. This is number 5 with Joe Valente from Tabachek Law, Robert Schneider from Silik Financial. Gentlemen, thank you again for joining me today.
Thanks for having
You
us.
got it, Jay. Yeah, as always, thanks for having us.
Awesome. All right, guys. We are we are supposedly in the spring market. Want to kind of see what you guys are seeing. It's definitely not your standard spring market by any means. There's not a huge influx of inventory as of right now after the Easter weekend. We are seeing some homes trickle in after the market, after the holiday, but nothing rip roaring by any means. So let's start off. Bob, can you give us somewhat of an update on mortgage rates, what you're seeing in the mortgage market, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, when we last met, we were talking about the whole bank crisis, and rates had come down considerably with the bank crisis, and then it seemed to be brushed under the carpet. And since then, rates have started to rise again, and we were up in the mid to high sixes. Um, and today we got some good inflation news, so we might see that slow up and come back down a little bit. The numbers were pretty strong. We'll see what the market reactions are today.
Okay. So interest rates are, they creep back up a little bit, but they potentially can creep back down in the next, couple of days, depending on what's going
I'm
on.
hoping they'll just like settle down in the mid sixes somewhere, and we can just kind of focus on finding some more homes out there.
Right. Yeah, I think we touched on last week. I think all of us were kind of in the agreement that the interest rates don't even matter at this point. Like there's still, a huge number of buyers looking to get in homes, and it just it's an inventory thing. Definitely an inventory thing. Uh, Joe, what are you seeing, in New York and New Jersey right now in transactions? Have you seen any influx or any changes on what's going on during the transactions?
Yeah, like you said, maybe a slight uptick, nothing monumental, right? With maybe inventory very ever so slightly, and corresponding with that is usually deals increase, but nothing like should be indicative of like the spring season, like April, April 12th should be a like you said, normally it's a big inventory injection, and with that comes a lot of transactions. One thing I started doing was, just talking to my sellers. What's the reason for listing, like moving, right? And just trying to get a better understanding of what's going on. A common theme that I'm getting is the sellers being a little bit older in age, number one, and number two, like they need a cash injection. So like normally, if they were living off investment accounts in the past years when those were performing really well, they could liquidate those. There's less of a tendency, or there's a hesitation to do those because they have not performed well, so they don't want to liquidate those, and they kind of sell in the house as a cash injection and getting into something more lower key, lower cost, whether it's a condo or something like that. That's kind of like the most common theme that I'm seeing among the seller right now is an older person who just needs that money, who doesn't want to liquidate all their accounts.
Right.
Um,
So you're saying that potential inflation is putting a pressure on them on their other financial funds. Maybe they're not doing so well in the market and stuff like that, and they need the injection of the cash from the sale of
right,
their
just
house.
maybe just less willing to liquidate those funds at a loss, right? They
Right.
don't want to eat the loss. So yeah, they're trying to be creative in other ways to just fund their lifestyle at this point. A lot of these people are retired and obviously just living off whatever they got set up in that respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like the most common seller right now is that. It's definitely not the person who has two kids and is trying to upsize the home because there's just no inventory to really find that a house. Like the condo is the more popular purchase right now, to be honest, as opposed to a house. There's more condos available than houses.
Right. That's an interesting perspective. I haven't thought of that. That because obviously some of the, depending on the stocks they purchased and stuff like that, the stock market majority is down. So you have a choice. Do I liquidate at a loss, or do I just hang on and ride this out? What is my strongest asset right now? My strongest asset is my property.
Right.
So if I have if I have the ability to leave the current property I'm in and I have a secondary home somewhere else, then why not take advantage of the current real estate market?
Right.
Well,
So it all circles back to, inventory still being the main problem. But I'm just trying to understand, like, who's our seller today, right? Like, and I think our seller is more of that, up there in age, a little bit older person, as opposed to like, a family in their 30s with a few kids.
do they have a place to go, Joe? That's I think is the key, because the ones I've talked to, they're like, well, if I sell my place and try to downsize or rent, I'm still spending the same amount every month.
Yeah,
So
I've seen it, right. I've seen answers across the board. I've seen some that are just going into a rental for a year to see what their options are, see how the market, their financial accounts react in that year. But yes, you're right. That's the most varying thing, is where are these people going that are selling? There's not a ton of properties to slide into. So these people may be, going to live with family. That's a response I'm getting, that they go to rent for a year or something. But yeah, it's a varying response in that respect.
Yeah.
It all circles back to the inventory for sure.
It does. And another thing too is like the interest rates, I think we touched on this last month, but the interest rates being so low that majority of the potential sellers now, they have a choice. Hey, do we just hang on to this property and rent it because the interest rates are so low? And not get rid of it. So that's kind of locking up a bunch of stuff as well.
100%. You're just going to have a less of a seller pool because of that point you just raised.
Conversation every day.
It's just like,
you don't want to sell.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of people who didn't really want to become landlords don't have much of a choice. It just, economically speaking, it just makes too much sense. You'll have a lot of people whose mortgage payments, including the taxes, like their full in monthly, is somewhere around $2,500, and they could easily rent that for $35,000 or $4,000. It's kind of like a no-brainer. So it's not even like, do I do this? It's like, I have to do this.
That's the conversation. So it makes sense. Then the question is, do you want to be a landlord?
Right.
Or can you handle it? And you have money for a down payment for the next place if you don't sell your current place.
And that's covering the gamut of the whole scenario, right? Your money just doesn't grow on trees. Not everybody's in the position where they can just ante up on a new home without using the funds from a sale. So yeah, this is all the interplay.
Yeah. I think, even though that interest rates are not the driving factor whether or not someone's going to purchase right now, like there's tons of buyers that are willing to purchase right now. I think the biggest thing is that the interest rates, the main factor of the interest rates that are affecting it's inventory. And I think if we see the interest rates drop, just getting closer to what they previously were, then we'll see an influx of homes on the market, right? And then it could solve the potential inventory issue. It's like, they need to get they need to get a little bit closer to where they were to free up some homes, in my opinion.
There's so many factors here, but yeah,
there's so many, like, as you guys make a point, like, there's just a bunch of things running through my head. Like, even if you want to go the route of, oh wow, like, we got this low payment on our house, let's become landlords. It goes back to, you're liquidating accounts that got beat up to purchase your new home. Like, there's no great answer here. Like, you're taking a loss somewhere. You're gonna have to dig and figure out what the best of your less attractive options are, really, is what you're dealing with, right? So as a seller, not everybody's going to be in that position where they're going to be able to hold on to 2 properties and purchase a new home with funds from other accounts that are also, over the last year and a half have 30%, sometimes 40% gotten beaten down with. So yeah, it's just, there's a lot of factors going on here.
Yeah. And everyone is, it's a case by case basis, as well. I did, I had a meeting with a couple of agents the other day as well. And we were talking about, clients and stuff like that. And especially, buyers. And I said to a couple of the agents, I go, the biggest thing in the conversation that you need to have with, your buyers right now is, tell them, listen, guys, I need to see all your cards. Like, tell me everything you got going on financially, or everything like that, what you think you can do down payment wise, because we need to paint the entire picture before you even enter the market, even into considering purchasing. We have to come up with the strategy to see the highest probability, what your odds are to actually get something, and having that open and honest conversation with them, prepare them for what they're getting into, is really, really important right now. Because if you don't have all your ducks in a row, it's going to be really hard to get an offer accepted.
Yeah. And even once you get that offer accepted, it's just like, I can't remember a time where there's such an urgency to get out of attorney review, because there's just another offer looming. And if you try to enter a weekend, especially without ending attorney review, there's a good chance your deal's not going to be sitting there on Monday morning.
I know it's a white knuckle ride until you get under contract.
Yeah, that initial contract signing doesn't hold a ton of weight these days. So
no, not at all. Is there
I talked to a client this morning who does estate sales. I thought this was interesting. She said to me that she has multiple clients who are selling, who their deals fell apart because of the appraisal. Now, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
But are you guys seeing anything like that? I have seen, knock on wood, I've seen very few low appraisals, and even if they've come in low, they're easily worked out. Have you guys seen any issues?
I definitely don't see that as an overriding issue. Just your standard, may have one or two of those you're dealing with at any time, but under appraise, I don't see that as being an issue right now.
No,
yeah.
That could just be.
As a matter of fact, I think it's better than I expected it to be. I've seen less low appraisals than I would have thought I would see.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that is an issue. Yeah, I haven't seen much appraisals come in like ridiculously low by any means, but with the inventory and the amount of buyers right now, there's so much gap,
Right.
Gap coverage in regards to appraisals on buyers that are willing to cover. So I am surprised that even if it does underappraise, that any of the buyers are walking away on the deal, which is interesting.
Well,
yeah. Yeah. Is there an end in sight? Does anybody see an end in sight?
No, I really
No.
don't. I think this is something we're going to be talking about in 24. And that could be wrong. Look, only way there's an end in sight is if we get some sort of COVID, something unexpected. Not that I'm expecting COVID, but something unexpected.
Yeah, we need something. Yeah, like you're saying, you need something big to kind of shock the system almost.
Right, to make all these other factors kind of afterthoughts, right?
Yeah. We need to build more houses. Is that what we need to do?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I don't even.
What's interesting also is the other conversation I'm having way more than I've ever had in my career is, in New Jersey, we have this mansion tax, right? Anything over $1 million, you pay the tax. It's a common conversation now. $1 million is no longer an expensive home in New Jersey.
No, a lot of times it's still a home that needs work. So
yeah,
it's crazy. I know. It's I was thinking about that the other day. Like $1 million is not even a drop in the bucket in our market these days. Definitely, it's crazy.
Especially
good money on that.
Right, and depending on where you're looking, obviously, if you're looking anything with proximity to New York City, Essex County based, I mean, $1 million doesn't get you much. Doesn't get you much.
Nope. No.
I think.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think along the lines of Bob's, and you said something big to shock the system. It's got to be something, and it's impossible to imagine these things before they happen, but something that spurs relocation. What that's going to be, who knows? But something that kind of overrides the fact, because I think that the number one prevailing thing right now with inventory is sellers not selling homes because of their monthly mortgage payment, right? I think everyone would agree that's probably the number one factor why we have low inventory. So it's got to be something that kind of throws it in motion where that's not as big of a factor anymore, or at least levels the playing field where you have something where that's not the main consideration that every seller has in their mind or potential seller has in mind. So who knows what that is? I mean, going back to if we were sitting here, if we were having this podcast in 2019, we wouldn't have been able to predict the occurrence of the next 4 years. It's impossible. So who knows?
Yeah.
Man, it's like
Not at all. Never would have expected what we have now.
No, I don't know what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, it's to a certain extent, it's like, it's almost a fruitless exercise trying to predict what's going to happen 6 months from now.
Yeah,
it's fun to talk about, but it's just like, who knows, man? Who knows?
There's so many variables.
That's why I tell buyers, if you're, when they ask me, should I buy or wait? I'm like, I don't know what you're waiting for. Only reason to wait is if you can't afford anything and you need to, then you need to wait. But if you're in the price range and you can afford it, you might not find anything, but there's no reason to wait. You're waiting for lower rates. Okay, you can always refinance down the road. And if you're waiting for lower values, it might be a long time. So you might lose out on it. Might be more expensive next year.
Yeah,
Bob, do you think there gets to a point, who knows this, but is there a point where and again, a lot of people refinance, so probably hard. I don't know what data is out there. My point is there going to be a large portion of people who pay off their loan where the interest rate doesn't matter? And now that's, it's less of a factor, right? They're just paying their property taxes sitting in their house. Who knows, right?
I mean, but those people probably have those lower rates, so there's no rush to pay off.
Right.
People with the higher rates.
There's no what's the benefit of prepaying additional principal each month when you're at 2.5, right?
Nothing. You might as well be putting more money into your investments.
But that's, I'm just thinking of different factors, and it could only be people that have been holding on to their homes for 15 years or more that are coming towards the end of their paying off their house, where it's not a factor anymore, holding on to a low rate. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's data that they probably don't even have yet, I'm assuming.
It's interesting, though.
Yeah.
That's a good thought. I mean, I think that you're right, though, that if we see rates around 5, there's a little more affordability to be willing to sell your 3% rate and move to a 5%. That might add some inventory, but that might also add more buyers, because there are buyers in the 6s who are just priced out that maybe at 5 they can afford a little more than they were.
Yeah.
Another catch-22, right?
There's so many catch-22s. Yeah. It's just, what you're going to see is just like you said, hopefully we see some type of slightly increased inventory. But your seller is just going to be, it's going to run the gamut. It could be the family that sends their kids off to school and doesn't want to live in the area anymore. Your older person who's looking to downgrade or go live with family, but there's not going to be like a steady type of seller profile, right? I think that's the issue here.
Right.
It's not as simple as we need a bigger house, let's sell it and buy a bigger house. That was the big boom, of the COVID. There's a lot of sells and purchases, people upgrading and whatnot, but you don't see that right now. It's not a lot of that.
Right.
A lot of clients I've talked to who need a bigger house and are refusing to buy a bigger house because they don't want to give up their rate.
Yeah.
That's a big conversation. They're busting at the seams. They've had a third kid maybe, and it's a 2 or 3 bedroom, and they really need more space. And they're like, well, maybe we'll just stick it out another couple of years. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's the decision you have to make. You either pay more and your family has more space, or you find a way to make your space work.
There's no doubt a lot of that. I mean, you could argue I fit into that category. I'm not an urgent buyer, but I'm definitely somebody that's looking to buy in the next year or so. And I'm not as antsy as I should be, So.
Yeah. Just get a shed, man. Throw a kid in the shed and you'll be fine.
But, maybe by Market Talk 10, we'll have these elixirs, these answers to all this.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll
and
talk
then
about something else. right?
Hopefully we talk about something else. I mean,
Some other issue with the market, that's for sure. I mean, there's always something,
yeah,
but you know, today, look, I
yeah,
read something earlier today. Someone was saying, "Why is this business so hard?" It's always going to be hard. It doesn't matter what. It's just a different market. That's all.
it's it. I mean, we're in the business of solving problems.
Hmm.
That's all it is. Solving problems, looking at taking the information, um, figuring out what's going to be the best course of action, and solving the problems and trying to make it as smooth as possible. Uh, I mean, do you think people are just also going to get fed up with the tri-state area and say, "Hey, if these interest rates don't come down, the only thing we possibly can do is maybe find, a state that has lower taxes that
Sure.
could help us on the monthly payment." I mean,
Yeah, you
I
may
don't
see
know.
some cost of living type thing, right? I mean, you could have a decent rate on your home, and that's your reason for holding on to it. But the cost of living in this area is, it's not going to shock the system by saying it's extremely high. It's definitely one of the top two or three areas in the U.S. for cost of living, and some people, may gravitate towards a Charleston or a Nashville. It's definitely possible, but are you going to see a large group of people now? It's probably going to be like your one off here or there on a transaction.
And
Mhm.
especially as companies decide they want people back in their offices because they don't like seeing the rented space empty. I see less people leaving, uh,
Mm,
moving, moving out of state because they won't be
interesting.
able to work from home as much.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's definitely a lot of that going on in July,
Are,
August, September of 2020, 2021. But
are
like
you
you said,
guys are you guys seeing a push from your clients' employers to get them back in the office? Are you seeing that?
I don't know if it's a
bigger
push. I
companies
think
for
some of them
sure.
have said a couple more days.
Hmm.
I don't know, what do you see?
Yeah, it's I think whereas it used to be like speaking to clients in general, where they used to be like a full remote, now that's like three versus two, some type of. But there's definitely a push to these companies have a decision to make, right? Like they
Hmm.
don't want empty space, so they either got to have the employees come in or they got to downgrade the space. And there's a lot of that going on in New York City for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would always go for downgrading space. Um, One for obviously overhead, and two, remote working because of attracting talent that might be out of the tri-state area.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion on
yeah.
that.
I don't know how long it's going to take, but there's definitely going to be. It's probably in the works already as we speak. There's going to be a conversion of commercial space to residential space in New York City, Jersey, Hoboken, Jersey City. The areas close in proximity to the city. You're going to see it at some point, whether it's a few years, 5 years. There's a lot of zoning that
Yeah.
has to get passed in order to do that, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's going to happen. It's a matter of time.
I mean, it has to. I mean, there's only so much land in the tri-state area that's buildable, right? And what's in higher demand, commercial real estate or
Yeah.
residential real
So
estate?
Huge
any area
residential.
that has a business district, you could even, it doesn't have to be right in New York City. Any area of New Jersey that has a business centered district, a lot of office space, it's going to be converted into condos and whatnot. It's just a matter of time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and I
that's
don't
like
think,
market talk like 200 though. We're not.
Right. Well, it started with the malls, right? The malls are being turned into, because there's no use for these big old malls anymore. They're turning those into like senior living,
Hmm.
Right.
where like apartments, and then they have some stores on the first floor and then apartments above. I'm seeing a lot of that with the malls.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see commercial real estate going back to where it was prior to COVID. I mean, I'd be extremely shocked if it does. Um,
I don't
you
think
know,
it
I
can. Yeah, I don't think it can. I mean, you may see like a revitalization from where it is now,
right.
but you're not gonna see 2015 commercial real estate again. It's just not gonna happen. At least not
No,
anytime
at
Yeah.
some
soon.
point, the leaders will be like, "Oh, the reason our profits are down is because everybody's working from home," and they'll find a reason, to bring people back into the office, and then they'll need more space, and so there will be. I think there'll be some resurgence. I don't think it to be like like you said, 2015. But I do think that
Yeah.
that's kind of cyclical. Leaders think everybody's more productive from home, then they think everybody's more productive in office, and it seems to go back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, maybe building is literally the solution to the inventory problem. Like you said, Bob, it's not going to be an overnight solution. We're going to be sitting in this in 2024 as well. I believe firmly with you on that. But, I think construction, in order to build new stuff, you need the construction costs and the materials to kind of get under control. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe literally that's the solution.
Who knows? And go ahead, Bob. What were you gonna say?
I'm good. I was just laughing.
Yeah. I mean, it's baffling. Sometimes it's just a head scratcher, Any final thoughts before we jump off, gentlemen?
No, I'm at a loss.
Right?
So, yeah, we're all three of us are speechless. This is a crazy market.
No, the last remarks would just be repetition at this point of what we said in the beginning of the podcast. Like it's just everything comes back to the old inventory. So, hopefully sellers look for those warmer temperatures down south or out west. That's it.
Yeah. Lower tax. Find some place that has lower taxes and some inventory, and go for it. So if you can work remote,
it is a great time to sell if you have a place to go. Yep.
Absolutely.
That is. It's like winning the lottery right now.
Yeah.
So. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much again for jumping on here. I look forward to our next talk, and
good to see you guys.
We'll see. Maybe, definitely good to see you, and maybe something big will change. We'll see. So
until next time, Jay and Bob, take care.
Yeah.
Till next time. Take care, guys.
Thanks.